Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. We have a real estate video here for you guys today, purely because PROPY, one of the projects we've been talking about for a long time on this channel, has accelerated over the last couple of days to over 150% gains in the market. Why? We will go into a bit more detail about this in a second. I will reiterate for about the 100th time as to why the real estate market is so lucrative for the blockchain space, and particularly from some of the events that I've been to, certainly in the last 6 months around trade finance, certainly the orientation around real world assets and tokenization. These are really key points, guys, to understand why we as investors want to be looking at these different sectors that blockchain and certainly the smart contract aspects can really be enhanced and utilized in these areas. And we're talking about trillions upon trillions of dollars in terms of market value. I'll reiterate those points again, even though I've done them before, because some people out there may be new to the channel, which leads me to my fantastic point right now that if you haven't done so already, please, of course, do make sure that you smash that subscribe button and also smash that thumbs up button as well. So I'm just going to switch to the browser a second, and we'll go into a bit more detail about this topic. So as I mentioned, there's loads of different topics and discussions that we've discussed on the channel. One of those being real estate in general, and the blockchain utilization within that. So let's go straight into this. So this is the news that's come out in the last day. It's actually, I think, earlier today. Real estate coin jumps 90%. It's actually more than that. We'll go into the market chart in a second. Coinbase announcement to tokenize real world assets. Now, the real world asset tokenization is not a new topic. It may be if you're new to the space, but I'm telling you that this has been on the cards for a long time. The technology has been there for a long time. I'm talking about, you know, potentially a couple of decades. In fact, to reiterate a point that I've made, and certainly someone that I know who was working with blockchain technology back in the late 80s, and it was purely because of the fact that there was no real world utility or indeed the technology to accommodate such an equation in the quantum mechanic of everything. Hence, you know, with Bitcoin's mining, etc., the creation of cryptocurrency, whoever did it initially from that marketing perspective from 2008 onwards, has obviously seen the pattern of the way we're going to technologically advance ourselves digitally moving forward, and certainly in the financial industry. So the Pro token, which is the PROPY token, surged well over the 150% mark. We'll go, again, as I said, in more detail in a second, taking its market capital up significantly. But this is what it's about. So although that PROPY has not announced as a backbone of Coinbase's latest initiative, the news itself was enough to trigger positive sentiment among Pro holders and jump the token's price. So what usually happens in these instances is that a company such as Coinbase will mention something about a particular sector, and what do people do? They then go and research this magnificent sector or any other sectors that are discussed at the time, and they will go and jump onto any coin or project that they can see within the vicinity of their eyesight when browsing and researching themselves. Now, in this instance, we're talking about real world assets, and particularly around real world assets relating to real estate. Now, the real estate market is absolutely huge. We'll go into that again in more detail in a second, but it's that orientation of conversation around what real world assets are and the tokenization of them as well. So we've talked about this in a video that I did quite recently. It was the NFT one. I can't remember exactly when I did it. It was this one here, NFTs. Go and check that video out. I'll leave a link to it at the end of this one, because we must start moving away from that terminology of NFT and understanding and utilizing framework of terminologies like real world assets and tokenization. Physical NFTs in general will just incorporate into this, and eventually we won't be using these names and labels at all. They will just be normal. So as we kind of talk right now here in the UK, when we're talking about real estate, we could be talking about things like land registry or documentation of deeds, solicitors obviously being the intermediary majority of the time to combine all of this between a buyer and a seller, a purchaser, etc. And that includes retail estate as well as commercial and institutional estates as well. So we combine all these theories into the point that blockchain provides us the platform and the technology capabilities to enhance transactions in this, but also that validation aspect and the process of transparency, all of these things that blockchain stands for, and we're all really excited about, of course, from the aspect of what the technology is capable of doing. So in the blockchain real estate world, this is really fascinating. It's something I picked up on quite a number of years ago, and I found this a really interesting topic purely because of the monetary value of the market and what blockchain can do in this space. So when I came across the likes of PROPY, and that's just one example, I'm not a massive holder personally of PROPY. I've enjoyed the last 24 hours of movement and the price, of course, but for me personally, to see that validation that people are now talking about real world assets branching off into all these different areas, we must understand this, that it's not just the finance world. Obviously, real estate is involved with finance, but it spreads out across the broader spectrum of so many different markets and sectors. And with the ability of things like smart contracts, the smart contract can hold so much information and data. And especially in the real estate side of things, you think about the deeds, the contracts, and this is how crazy it will go, trust me. With the utilization of things like IoT and artificial intelligence, we've talked about before as well, in this incorporation factor of bringing all these technologies together, artificial intelligence can go a long way. It could be, for example, you've just obtained a new house or purchased a new house, you've done an extension on it. But usually when you get a market value, you have someone come around your house and do a survey, right? But if we have this AI algorithm of every bit of data, whether it be the environment that you live in or the area that you live in, and values of prices, all being real time, simultaneous, no need for intermediaries like real estate agents or anything like this anymore. Sorry, but that's the way it's going. And then if you add an extension on, all the materials that you're buying, because of digital identity, smart contracts, our digital wallets, we're buying and selling things, or the contracts are done, it already knows the value that you're adding on. So no one needs to come in your house and go, oh, what a fantastic conservatory you've added on. It already knows that you've done it, and the materials, the cost, then the valuation of the property based on others in your area. It just spreads out in that way. So that's really like a massive technological advancement that will be coming in the next few years. And I've seen it firsthand in how this operates. And in fact, I'm just going to bring up this prime example here on the screen now as well. Relating to the kind of like power of this. So I mentioned this in a previous video. Lloyds Bank, I picked this information up on the recent trade finance event that I went to. It's a fantastic speech by the team there. And they basically incorporated an investment within this company called Enegio, and they do something called Trace Original, which is basically allowing deeds and contracts and things to be done in a smart contract way, the digital way, if you like, and the utilization of blockchain. One thing that stood out for me in this particular fashion was this. So this was a pilot transaction. Now, this was based on a pilot of several parties at a very institutional level, with an extortionate amount of money's worth of land being purchased and sold simultaneously. £48 million worth this pilot was based on. And the fact of the matter is that this didn't take months or years. This was a matter of a real substantial decrease in the time that this took. And it was absolutely phenomenal to see this in action as a pilot scheme. But as it says, removing the need for physical transfer documentation with the trade transactions, Lloyds Bank aims to deliver faster, more affordable, flexible, sustainable and secure digital trade solutions for clients. And that passes its way through to real estate or even land as well. So it saw the sale and purchase of land worth £48 million completed between several UK businesses, not months or weeks or years, but one single day. Imagine how fast the economy could grow, and all the benefits of having things done in this fashion could achieve within the economy, not just here in the UK, but across the board globally. So we now have the ability to create a physical NFT, real world asset, whether it's a car, a house, whatever it might be, a digital formulation of that asset in a smart contract format as well within blockchain. The transparency, the verification, the processing, the contracts, switchovers, smart contracts, and all of that, as I just mentioned, all in those kind of frameworks happening moving forward. And it's absolutely phenomenal. So that was a pilot, obviously. It's not real world yet, but you can imagine the aspect of what is achievable moving forward. And PROPY is a great example of this purely from the fact that they are already in operation. So let's have a look at that quickly. So PROPY, that don't know, this is very heavily based around real estate, the utilization of Web3 and blockchain technology. They already have a marketplace, guys. For people, you and I can literally sit in our pajamas, if we want, or whatever you're wearing, in our lounge or on our sofa, and we can go and buy, or at least have a fractionalization of a property worldwide through systems like this. Now, it's important to understand that in some regions or countries around the world, this is not fully as such regulated. It's technically possible, but what was really interesting in the recent trade finance event that I was at near Watford here in the United Kingdom, thank you to Andre Casterman for allowing me to come to that. It was very much on the opinion through the UK Laws Commissioner, I think it was Sarah Green, if I remember correctly. She was mentioning that some of these things are possible, but there's still a bit of a grey area as to what is fully legal and what is binding. And what's happening now is really interesting. I'm speaking on behalf of what's going on in the UK right now, and it may be similar in other countries. I'd love to hear if there's any experts out there or people that have knowledge, or if you just want to throw your own research in any of the comments below about the countries that you're from in this similar situation. I really would appreciate you doing that because it does help us with the channel building, etc. But yes, we've had recently in the video that we did a while back around land registry. So HM Land Registry are very much in charge of the ownership of land and the property values and property deeds, etc. for anything that we buy and sell here in this country at a residential, commercial, institutional level, you name it. And they are operating blockchain technology at the moment with pilot schemes, which is absolutely fascinating. We did a big topic on that because there isn't just PROPY. I mean, PROPY is essentially one of the full-scaled kind of like real estate dedicated specialists in this area. They're in fact the ownership and the founders of the company. I think her name is Natasha or Natalia. They were all real estate agents previously, so they have very big understanding of the real estate market. So we've got that aspect, but there's other companies. I'm sure you're all familiar, or if you are new to the crypto space, you may not be so. But Hedera, Hashgraph, obviously a huge company within the blockchain space, are heavily involved with real estate mechanisms moving forward with blockchain ability, as are the likes of Ripple. So as I said, this is not new news. It's just the fact that we have a reiteration of this recently with that confirmation around Coinbase getting heavily involved with real world asset application and tokenization processing as well. But yes, it's this here, the venture called Project Diamond, a platform for issuing and trading blockchain-based debt instruments, and essentially the aspect of real world assets as well. So really, really fascinating how this has all starting to lead into a really cool conversation, a discussion point, and something exactly as I just said earlier in other videos. It's a prime example of what we should be looking for when we're researching projects that we want to invest in. And I hold Hedera, I hold XRPs, HBAR, and XRP respectively, amongst a few others. And it's not just from the finance side. I look at the other branch, the other arms that it can really get into sector-wise as well. And you have to understand the monetary values of those areas too. So before we jump into the chart, I just want to reiterate a couple of things around some market data here, which is absolutely phenomenal. So blockchain and real estate, 17 companies. I'll leave a link to that. There's just a few that are mentioned here. Some of them you may not even heard of. It doesn't even mention PROPY in these ones, but you can see that there are a number that are already working in this area. I think I always said this wrong, but Ubiquity, maybe. I do know those guys quite well, and Real T. We've been trying to get them on the channel for a while, so if anyone wants to do any prodding on Twitter and stuff, do please help us out with that. But here's some of the really interesting statistics. So by 2022, global spending on blockchain for real estate was projected to rise 2.436 million US dollars compared to 1.352 in 2018. And a 30% surveyed real estate businesses worldwide stated they are or were considering blockchain adoption. So you've already got some really good figures there. But look at this. The global blockchain and real estate markets are predicted to reach 3.884.8 million by 2028. Absolutely phenomenal numbers there. And that's just blockchain utilization. Get this right, because ultimately and eventually, there's no doubt in our minds that we have to take over the entire industry at some point. There'll be a transitional period. It could take 5-10 years as banks and companies, businesses, real estate catch up with this mechanism of technology. But this is what we're looking at here, guys. If we think about this, in fact, let's look at it at the 2028/2030 kind of area. The value of real estate market currently in 2023, $613 trillion. 613. Absolutely phenomenal. The value is expected to show an annual growth, and I think this is underestimated because I do think that blockchain will significantly enhance the growth development of the real estate markets, the ability for us to buy and sell quicker, and also the construction will speed up as well. If you think about artificial intelligence, construction elements, the ability of IoT, the ability of blockchain for processing contracts. And if you think about how much a contract could cost, maybe even in London, to build a skyscraper, and it could be done in a day potentially moving forwards. But anyway, as of now, the prediction there, 729 trillion by 2028. Now, this residual percentage value doesn't look much, but when you talk about it in this fashion of trillions of dollars, it is absolutely mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. So that's not to say exactly to the point that we will see a $700 trillion market for blockchain and these crypto assets we hold. But one thing it does say is that we're on the right path. We're on the right avenue and mindset to really enhance our minds around and wrap our minds around the real estate market in tokenization and cryptography. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I think it's a really exciting topic to get your heads around. If it's new to you, check out the videos we did around Web3 real estate. I'd specifically said in previous videos, don't miss out on this sector. We saw time is still very early, and those examples are in pilot stages, even at the banking institutional level. But it's one of those things where I would say to not just jump in, like with anything in crypto or any kind of things that you're putting money into. You must research. And don't just jump on to articles and things like this. Don't even listen to like YouTube videos. Get your research from YouTube videos and things, but do your own research. It's really important. And understand the mechanism of what you're purchasing or what you're investing in. And what's the pattern? What's the trend line? We've already seen those big numbers in real estate. Okay, that's a huge pie. We've seen big numbers already in the blockchain utilization of that. But you can start building that pattern and start also remembering that you're not going to always become a millionaire overnight or in the next couple of years. It's certainly something that could help towards a pension or future wealth management and all these kind of things. I'm not an expert in those areas, but certainly something I'm personally working towards. So, as I say before, none of this is financial advice. It's just the opinion of making sure that you really understand the markets of the projects that you are investing in. And I think real estate is one that's just not talked about enough, as there are many others, to be honest with you. I think the energy sector is quiet on this topic. I think it's huge. But everyone's obviously focused on banks and, what's XRP doing cross borders, all this kind of stuff, when actually you could literally apply blockchain to pretty much every sector out there. And I would highly recommend as well, if there's something that I think it's Warren Buffett always said, like, only invest in what you know, or try invest in what you know. If there's a sector or an industry that you're working in, it could be retail, real estate, whatever it is, think of that methodology in your mind and adapt the blockchain philosophy onto those industries that you work in. Because if you do understand a sector or an industry more than others, you've got a great opportunity to share that knowledge with other people, like we try and do on the channel. I think it's important to share knowledge and education. But also from the point of, if you understand more about what you're investing in, the more success you're probably going to have, rather than just throwing money at random things. I mean, I'm not a meme coin holder. I don't participate in all that kind of stuff at all. I'm very much more interested in the long term. I'm not saying that you can't make money in those areas, because people are, but I'm very interested in the long term, but also the predominant industries and sectors that I know specifically in my head, from either working in those industries or knowing significant people in those areas, or attending good knowledge bases, whether it be events or whatever it might be, to understand what's ahead of time. So do your own research for sure. Let's jump into the chart of PROPY really quickly. In fact, I'm not going to use the trade view because it's not great, because it's using Coinbase and it goes back a small bit of time. So actually what we will do is we'll just use the coin market page here for now. So let's get that back on the screen. and we'll have a quick look at that. So we've obviously had this jump up on TradeView. I did the price range upwards, and it did come up around 154, 156% increase in that less than 24-hour period. So do anticipate potential drop downs at some point as things stabilize. I do anticipate as well that this could shoot up a bit further because of the fact that the news trickles out and people are like, oh my goodness, what do I get for real estate tokens these days? And 9 times out of 10, a lot of people jump in just fear of missing out and not understanding that we've already just jumped 150% and there's more downside than there is upside. But we can play that into our minds as we're building our strategies. In fact, I will switch over to the TradeView in a second. I just want to just give you a bit of an overview on CoinMarketCap here as to exactly where we've come from and where Propy could potentially get to, because unfortunately, as I said, the data doesn't go back beyond 2022 for TradeView at the moment. So you can see up here, the previous all-time high, with the exception of the launch period, of course, which did hit, I think, around $4.89. That I always go by this one because it's a bit more of a realistic area. It's not anywhere near the launch period. $3.74. So we can suddenly see some critical areas of interest. You can see actually some of these caved areas back here in April 2021. And I think maybe just the beginning of June 2021. This is exactly where we're matching up right now, price point wise, today. So there's an argument to say that it could penetrate itself forwards, but I would anticipate this kind of move in the bull run, not so much intricate detail. If you remember the AI conversation, whether it's beginning of this year, I can't remember, or latter stage of last year, AI was a big topic, and what did everyone do? They jumped into AI tokens, and then the thing didn't move any further, and people lost a lot of money, or they were clever and thought about it ahead of time and did their trades, whatever. The fact of the matter is, this is just a topic, and Coinbase is a huge platform. It's asking its topic around this diamond platform, etc. It showcases the fact that imagine if all the exchanges did this in one go, or the banks or the companies that we know very well start talking about this even more and more and more. I think it's going to be one of the key narratives for sure in the bull run, along with CBDCs for sure, and the RTGS system, all these things enhancing as time goes by. But that is the state of affairs really on the bigger scale, if you like, for a better word, of Propy. I'm just going to see if I can get my chart up here. There we go. So there's the information around the 156%. So taken from the top point and one of the lower points here yesterday. In fact, you could argue that article is probably more correct about today's movements, around 83% at the moment. It has dropped down since then to this 78-80 cent mark, but it's a great move within a 24-hour period, we must admit. I'm just going to take one of the the highest points we've had in the past for Propy and one of the smaller ones. So you can clearly see we couldn't quite penetrate that 95 cent mark again, which we reiterated on that CoinMarketCap. There's been a lot of areas of interest around there, but it couldn't penetrate it. It's stuck. And I do anticipate we're going to get two motions, and it's very much common sense here, guys. There's no magic to this. We could, in theory, retest this area within the next few hours and try and test that higher region of $1.14. It's going to be a long shot for sure, as we're in this kind of like bear market trend over the markets in general. But the ultimate factor in my mind is that, well, it's already retraced back to this level here. Isn't it funny how it matches up with these fib levels? It shows you how crazy the trading market can be. So currently, as a recording, 79 cents, matching up with this. I haven't done any magic here other than matching up pretty much the bottom area here, and also the top areas kind of across the board, really. It's not too far, so it's pretty accurate. So there's an argument to say that we could potentially retest this lower area and probably make our way back down as people go, oh, it's not moving again. And really, the Propy token is heavily orientated around the utilization of real estate transferring or transacting between its platform to new and purchasers, sellers, buyers, etc. in real estate, amongst other sort of remits that the Propy token is utilized for. So I do anticipate over time that will probably retrace quite nicely, and it will give other people an opportunity to understand and give them a bit of time for research and to say, okay, I missed this onslaught upwards. Let's see what happens over the next few weeks or months. Gives me a bit of time before the bull run properly starts to try and take advantage of the next gains that may be possible. As I said, it's unfortunate that Coinbase doesn't go up previously back to the 2021 marks, but if I just take that as an example, I think it was the 20th of January 2022 was actually, I think might have just got in there. I think it literally just did. So if I just pull this number, let's say we do have that retracement, for example, back, let's just say for an argument's sake, 50 cents as a stable price point. If we move ourselves all the way back up to that previous all-time high, it's a good 800 to 1,000% gain from that current price point. If we move it back down to the previous lows that we had a few days ago, it does stretch it over that 1,000% mark. So there's a lot of opportunity here. So don't rush into things, think about things, research things, particularly in the real estate area. Property is a very good, stable one at the moment. It has been for some time. It's done the bear market cycle like everyone else has, but look at these indicators on the right side. It is a bit skewed because of today, of course, but I'm going to focus more about the year to dates and the year in respect to all of these things that have happened in the last 24 hours. You see they're very strong. They're very strong in the green, and I do anticipate a bit of a retrace. We have the RSIs on the bottom left here, just down here, 81 on the 14-day, 77 on the 28-day, and even on the slightly longer term, 65. These are too high in my mind. If I was new personally, again, it's not financial advice, just me personally, I wouldn't be touching this right now because of the acceleration that it's had. I'd be waiting for those numbers to halve, and that would be probably, in my opinion, where you would start seeing the 60 to 50 cent mark again. Eventually, probably another retest of the lower regions because we don't have enough data at those periods of time. The only data we have is what we see in front of us here, which only goes back to December 2022. And in fact, if we looked at those previous coin market charts, it was way back, I think, if I just look back here, 2018 to 2020, it was all the way down to these 8-10 cent marks. So I personally think there's a lot of opportunity. It's something to put on everyone's radars, not just property, but real estate in general. Have a look at it, guys. It's a really exciting topic. It's a massive sector and industry coming up. Guys, I'm going to wrap that up there. If you have any questions or thoughts around property or the real estate tokenization aspect, the real world asset tokenization aspect, drop your comments below. I love to hear about them. And as I said earlier, anything relating to your countries out there, if you have any research or documentation around what they're doing in the real estate world, or how you guys conduct land registries and things in your own countries respectively, please let me know, because I'd love to build the pattern and the dot connecting worldwide. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Let's keep an eye on this sector space. It's absolutely massive. Take care. Bye-bye.